Hi there everyone, it's JC, welcome back. I have an exciting card collaboration with my good friend Preeti of It's a Preeti World. We had a nice little chat and decided to use the same materials to make card projects, so let's see what happens. We are making projects a little out of our comfort zone, something whimsical and playful with limited materials. Aside from the other card making essentials like scissors, paper trimmers, and adhesive, I have a few of the warm gray Copics and YG03, a Copic friendly black ink, the one I use is Altenew permanent black ink, Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock, and lastly Squeeze the Day stamp set from Hutson. Preeti generously sent me the stamp set, and if you haven't been to her channel, I'll link her blog, Instagram, and channel below. I would love if you let her know I sent ya. The first thing I did was use a piece of white cardstock and the warm gray Copics to make a very rough striped background of varying widths. I don't want these lines to blend, and I'm just using the chisel tip to apply color to the paper. I'll use my Fiskars paper trimmer to cut 1/4 inch strips until I've run out of cardstock. Once I have a pile of these gray strips, I'll randomly divvy the colors into two groups of the same quantity on my craft mat. This is just a scrap piece of typing paper to help me with the next steps. I am running a strip of double-sided tape across one side and taking some of the adhesive off by touching the tape with my palm to create a temporary tack. So I am taking one of my piles and randomly staggering the strips vertically and temporarily adhering them to my scrap piece of typing paper. Then here comes the fun part. I'll apply a dot of glue to every other strip, let that become slightly dry and tacky, and weave one of the strips at random to the vertical strips. What I'm doing is creating a sort of basket weave, like a basket of fruit for the limes I'll make later. I'm not trying to make this immaculate, I'm leaving a little bit of space between the strips so that the pieces of paper don't look so tightly woven. After all, I want a basket weave, not a mosaic look to this card. I'll reinforce edges that need glue as necessary, and remove the temporary scrap piece of paper. I'll even up the free unwoven edges with my scissors, keeping that staggered look that I had earlier. I'll set this aside and work on the Squeeze the Day stamp set. So here is this adorable 4x6 stamp set from the Essentials by Ellen line by Julie Abersol. I'm such a huge fan of her illustrations, so I'm just gonna throw that out into the universe. Honestly, I'm making this portion up as I go, so I'm stamping a few of the lime images and the leaves with Altenew permanent black ink on a new panel of solar white cardstock. I'm not sure how many I'll need yet. There are coordinating dies for the stamp set, but I don't have them for this project. So to preemptively disguise any fussy cut boo-boos I make, I'm adding a light gray shadow layer around all of the stamped images using W1 Copic marker. Now for coloring the images, since I am going for a playful theme, I colored these images first with W5 or W3, then diffused the gray layer with YG03 to give a green gradient down the lime. I also added some dots to the limes and flowers because why not? I wanted to try a stamping technique that I've seen across the internet sporadically, which is using the solid back of the photopolymer stamp. Since these leaf images have bilateral symmetry or can be folded in half and create a mirror image like a heart or a butterfly, I can use the back to very roughly stamp a solid layer on top of the leaf outlines. So on my acrylic block, I have the outline stamp adhere to the block, and my ink pad is going to ink up the back side of the stamps. Using that scrap piece of paper from earlier and Altenew permanent black ink, I'll partially take off half of the ink from the back of the stamp. Then I'll stamp the entire image on the same scrap piece of paper. Then finally overlay this solid layer to my outline on my cardstock. Essentially, I'm creating a second and third generation stamp gradient so that these leaves have a grainy dip dye look. After cutting out the images with my scissors, I'll do a rough check to see if I have enough pieces for my card. Before adhering the basket weave and lime images I just colored, I'll use W9 and YG03 to create splatters. I find that using the brush nib and creating dots of varying sizes help the illusion of water splatters that I typically make on my cards. At this time, I also made my sentiment banner by stamping the sentiment with permanent black ink and added rough highlight strokes with YG03 for a color spotlight. I adhered everyone down using my favorite liquid glue, curled up some of the edges for dimension, and that finishes this playful limes in basket scene. Like I said earlier, this video is just one half of a fun collab I have with Preeti. I would appreciate if you all checked out her video as well and show her some support. It has been fun to see the different projects we create using the same crafting materials. If you're coming from Preeti's channel, welcome, and I'm so glad she sent you my way. Again, huge thank you to Preeti for this fun collaboration. Connection and collaboration is one of the many great qualities of the card making community. Unfortunately, the biggest limiting factor for me is time. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I'll see you all very soon and have the best day.